question 2 in the TOEFL test. As you know, it's a personal question, but unlike question 1, it's a closed-ended question. It's not open-ended like question 1 where you have many options. In question 2, you usually only have one of 2 options. So today we're going to talk about those and what kind of questions we're going to see, how to take notes on those questions, and how to answer them. Alright, so here's a few examples of the type of question 2s that you would see in a TOEFL test. First one says, which do you think is more helpful to students? Internet materials or textbook materials? Why do you think so? Include details and examples to support your opinion. So as you can see, this is not just a very general question with many answers to answer the question. You only have one of 2 choices to make. So you either think that internet materials are better or you think textbook materials are better. And then it says, why do you think so? So you need to make sure that you clearly explain why you think that way, why you feel that way, and give the examples and the explanations to support your opinion. Okay, another question is, if you have little extra money, how would you use it? Would you spend the money quickly for enjoyment or save the money? Include details and examples to support your opinion. Again, this is the same thing. It only gives you 2 options. You can spend the money quickly or you can save the money. Now something that some students will do is they'll try to answer both. They'll try to choose both. Sometimes I want to save, sometimes I want to spend. Don't do that. Choose one and stick with one so that you clearly answer the question. If you try to answer with both questions, then which one do you do more often? Or which one do you overall think is better? It could be a little bit confusing. So don't try to choose both and explain both. Just choose one, explain that one, why you think it's best, and move on from there. Question 3 says, some people prefer to plan activities for their free time very carefully. Others choose not to make any plans at all for their free time. Which do you prefer? Include details and examples to support your opinion. Okay, I'll say it again. If sometimes you make a plan for free time and other times you don't try to choose both and then explain them both. Just choose one. It says which do you prefer, so you need to tell them which one you prefer and then explain why. For example, you could say, I prefer to make a plan every time I have free time. Then I know what's going to happen and you can go on and explain from there. Or you could say, some people prefer to plan activities for their free time. However, I choose to not plan and just enjoy my free time and do what I want as those urges come on. Alright, so now let's look at another question. We're going to specifically break it down, see how to answer it. Question 1. Some people prefer to work for a large company while others prefer working for a small company. Which would you prefer and why? Use details and examples to support your answer. So I came up with a couple answers for working for a large company. So on my notes here, you can see it's very plain, but very quickly I can write this down and still know what I'm going to talk about. So the main topic is company. Do I want to work for a large company or small company? Since I chose large company, the subtopic is large company. Now I have 2 reasons to support my example. As I've said before, for a 45-second question, usually 2 reasons or 2 examples is enough to support your opinion. For a 1-minute question, you usually want to use 3 examples. But since this is 45 seconds, I'll just use 2. So my first example is advancement. There's more opportunities to move up in the company. Advancement means moving up the chain of command or getting a better job, making more money, having more authority. My other reason is security, meaning job security. You have less chance of losing the job working for a large company than a small company. So as you can see, these are my 2 examples that I'm going to use. I'm going to explain them a little bit in my speaking time, and then that will clearly show why I think working for a large company is better. So let me show you what I have. I said, I would prefer to work for a large company rather than a small company. Large companies would be able to provide more opportunities for advancement in positions. This means that if I worked for a large company, I would have many chances to become successful more quickly. A second reason I would prefer a large company is because there would be less chance of losing my job. Many people that work for small companies are constantly worried about losing their position at their workplace. I want to make sure that I have job security with whatever company I work for. I believe that large companies can provide a better career. For these reasons, I would rather work for a large company than a small company. So that took about 45 seconds to answer that question. As you can see in the bold here, I used the very word that I used in my notes, which can make it easier to tie your notes together with your actual speaking time. Alright, remember not to speak too quickly. There's no rush. You want to make sure you say everything clearly and just steady pace so that everyone who will be listening to you can clearly understand. Okay, here's another question. Question 2 says, both teachers and parents play important roles in the development of children. Who do you think has more influence on children, teachers or parents? Use details and examples to support your answer. Okay, this could be a tough one depending on the culture, because in some cultures, students spend more time in class than they do at home. So the argument could be made that teachers have more influence. However, for me growing up in American culture and my own personal experiences, I believe that parents play a more important role. So that's what my notes show here. My main topic here is influence. Subtopic is parents, because I believe parents have a stronger role in the life of children than teachers. The first thing I have is personality traits. Children gain much of their personality traits from how their parents act. You think about little children, and from the time they're born, who are they with most of the time? They're mostly with their parents. That means they would pick up their parents' personality traits and begin to act like them even at a young age. My second reason is length of time. Children understand that parents will be around for a longer time. Since parents are with children since the time they're born, they're with them for several years before the student even gets into school, and they're with them for many, many years after the student is out of school. Even though most students are reaching the age of adulthood coming out of school, they still have many things to learn from their parents. So the parents are still influencing their children, even after the time of graduation. So let's see how I set this one up. I said, both teachers and parents play important roles in the development of children. However, I believe that parents play a bigger part in the development of children than do teachers. There are 2 reasons for this. One, since children spend more overall time with their parents, they learn to act like their parents as they grow up. The second reason is that children understand that their parents will be a part of their lives for much longer than their school teachers. Parents start to influence and teach their children before teachers, since they raise the children. They also have much more time outside of the children's school life to influence them to grow up correctly. For these reasons, I believe that parents have a much stronger influence on the development of their children than teachers do. As you can see, I used the question both in the start of my speaking and in the end. Very beginning I said, both teachers and parents play important roles in the development of children. That comes right out of the question. However, I believe that parents play a bigger part in the development of children. That's also very similar to the question. Then you can see at the end I said, for these reasons, I believe parents have a much stronger influence on the development of their children than teachers do. As you can see, again, that's very similar to the question. So don't be afraid to use the question in the beginning and the end. Don't overuse it, but if you use it twice in the same answer, that's okay. Alright, now quickly let's just review. Remember, you want to take clear, concise notes. Stay in the limit. Okay? For question 1 and 2, you only have 15 seconds for taking notes, so not very much time. You need to be able to write keywords, keep your notes separated so that you don't get confused while you're reading your notes, and make sure that you understand them when the time comes. Okay, take your time, don't rush. This isn't a race. You just need to speak fluidly and try to use some fluency and just be very steady as you speak so that everyone listening can understand, especially your TOEFL grader. Okay, also pronunciation. Be clear. As I've said, these 2 go together. If you speak steadily and slowly without going too quickly, then your pronunciation will be clear. It's much easier to pronunciate words when you're speaking slowly. Alright? Thank you.